My name is Ann McElhenney.
And my name is Phelim McAleer.
This is the Ann Phelim Scoop. What are we doing in today's show, Phelim?
Well, what's that on your arm, man?
What's this on my arm? I got my annual checkup today, and this is where they drew an enormous amount of blood out of me. But I got a lot of prodding today. I got it
too, but I didn't choose. I didn't carry my bandage around like a virtue signaler. I took my bandage off.
I didn't want people to have to look at some gaudy, horrible wound. You don't have much of a wound there, actually. No. I didn't even want to look. I just didn't want to.
It's like an Israeli assassination squad.
And I got vaccinations, and Phelim didn't get vaccinations, and that's not because one of us is anti-vaxxer. It's because one of us has a fever.
A fever. And as you may hear,
and a sexy voice.
A cold
and a
voice.
Cold.
But I will struggle through because I care about the audience.
You do.
And I hope the audience care about us, and I hope they share this podcast. I hope they share it on social media. Share the link. We do need to get the numbers up. Yeah. We enjoy what we do. We need more people to enjoy what we do, especially coming into 2020. And we've got some very interesting projects coming up, which
yes, we do.
You'll love them.
Hearing about very soon.
Yes.
So what are we doing today, Phelim? What's the lineup today?
We're going to be looking at why Martin Sheen was an actor on The West Wing and not the writer on The West Wing.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Distinction?
Yes. We'll be discussing the most popular Farsi tweet on the planet.
The most popular Farsi tweet
what do you think
in history. I think that's...
Well, that's like saying,
oh, yeah, that's right.
In American TV, in the Bachelor history, and it's going like...
Yeah, 3 seasons.
You've had 10 seasons. Like, it's not a history, Anyway, so Twitter hasn't really got a twist. So anyway, the most popular tweet on the planet in history, whatever. In Farsi, and how it could lead to an absolute nightmare scenario for many on the left.
Correct.
Could Donald Trump have the biggest foreign policy success of them all? Maybe. We'll be looking at the latest Cory Booker news, our part in his downfall. And we're going to hear from how Elizabeth Warren's latest decision or announcement is that the key to freedom for women, the key to equality for women, is to allow violent criminal men to mingle with them in prison in the interest
Isn't she a darling?
Equality.
And we have a very good story from the Trump administration, who are rolling back some environmental regulations. You can imagine how the New York Times reported that, and you can imagine how rational humans reported it and reacted to it. So, and then we have the big news that that everyone's still talking about: Megxit. Megxit, which is
Megxit is the departure of Meghan Markle and Harry from His Royal Highness the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their departure from the green and pleasant lands of the United Kingdom.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're also going to. This has brought into sharp relief why it is essential that Donald Trump gets re-elected in 2020.
It's also brought into sharp relief, actually, by the way, a little Trump derangement story of its own. It has its own little Trump derangement story built into it, which is fabulous.
Yeah, and we're going to look at how a brilliant dying author, who had a lot going on, just divorced, she was dying.
Very popular.
Terminal cancer, she had the world's most dysfunctional mother. She had tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people. She wrote a book that changed people's lives. She had tens of millions of people who loved her, and she took time on her deathbed to do what?
To be Trump deranged.
Yeah, so
an extreme case of Trump derangement.
We're going to come to that at the end.
We're going to come to that, and we're going to have a recipe, very very simple recipe, but kind of a harking back to our past with our, for a lot of us, we were growing up, the smell of the very familiar smells in most family homes, and I want to talk about one of those recipes. And we have some entertainment news. We're
going to look at the new Phyllis Schlafly TV series starring Kate Blanchett and Rose Byrne.
And the reboot of Party of Five.
Reboot of Party of Five for the woke generation. You will not believe.
You won't believe it, and we're going to
play the twist they put on this classic. I mean, I mean it. Maybe you will believe, but they are blatant. They are awful. It's worth waiting for.
It's really worth waiting for. So we're going to start by letting you hear what happened at the rally, at the fire drill Friday, at the Friday fire drill.
So every Friday, Jane Fonda said she was, until she retired, she was going to spend every Friday getting arrested.
Except for she's now decided to take a little break.
That's right.
You know what? I'm with her, because you know what? I prefer to live and spend time in Malibu than to spend time in Washington,
especially
D.C.
in January.
And she has had her fill of it. She's done a few weekends, got arrested, but been in the cold, basically.
Got on the shows.
And she now has thought, despite the fact, and I actually thought that was really funny, because it's like, I thought we were in the middle of a climate catastrophe. If we're in the middle of a climate catastrophe, you can't really take a break.
No.
You can't say, do you know what I mean? I'm going to take a few weeks.
Does she think the oil polluters are taking a break? Think the coal companies are taking a break?
No. They're only getting going. But anyway,
while you take a break, they plunder and profit. And
So this last fire drill Friday, before the big break, they had quite a lot of this star power. They had Joaquin Phoenix, but they also had Martin Sheen, famously of The West Wing. And what happened, Phelim?
Martin gave a speech, which as I said in the intro, this is why he's an actor. This is why there's a division between actors and writers.
I think for a moment
and I can say as neither an actor or a writer.
I think he had a moment where he thought he was Aaron Sorkin, and we're going to listen to that, and just have a listen to this.
We are called to find something in our lives worth fighting for, something that unites the will of the spirit with the work of the flesh, something that can help us lift up this nation and all its people to that place where the heart is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth and tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sands of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, dear Father. Let our country awake.
His son is at home and has had mental health problems. His son is HIV positive. His son has children, grandchildren, who need a grandfather. And he, anyway, that is one thing. That's just my personal.
Oh, that's one part of it. But I mean, honestly, it's like you made an onion version of The West Wing. The West Wing had these moments where there were these amazing, very powerful speeches. Ran into the fire, ran back into the fire,
flames.
Which is one of the famous pieces in it that really inspired
people. The streets of heaven are too full with angels tonight.
Yeah, the streets of heaven are too full with angels tonight. This is not the streets of heaven are too full with angels tonight. This is not Aaron Sorkin. I mean, look at us, Phelim, speaking well of Aaron Sorkin, shockingly.
This is what Martin Sheen has driven us to. We're speaking well of
Aaron Sorkin. But I think the message from Martin Sheen is, I am not Aaron Sorkin. I have no hope of ever being Aaron Sorkin, and something has caught me. And I also think perhaps, is this like a rehearsal tape? Is that one of those, one of those, what do they call that when you're looking for a role in a movie? What's that called?
Audition.
Is this like an audition? Is this like an audition for president? Is this like, look at me, I can do those speeches that Trump can't do?
Well, he should run. Why wouldn't everyone else?
Martin, run, Martin, run. Yeah. Because actually, interestingly enough, and I know we're going to talk about that later, but actually we're going to talk about it quite soon. It kind of is reminiscent. To me, this speech is very reminiscent of the speech we had last week from Cory Booker, where Cory Booker was talking about his resolutions for 2020. And of course, in big news since then, we think that our pointing out of Cory Booker's fabulous New Year's resolutions last week was the unending of him.
Yes, because he last week there he announced, because on Monday he announced that he was suspending his campaign, which is a funny way of saying I'm ending my campaign.
So Democrats so white, Phelim, is that right? Are we at Democrats so white yet? No, we're not.
So white.
We're not. Are we?
Well, Elizabeth Warren is Native American.
Correct.
Shalom.
Namaste.
Oh, namaste.
But I think there's also, is there not also, is the Asian man not there still?
Andrew Yang.
Was that kind of racist of me to say the Asian man?
No. If they are a person of colour, the question is what colour?
Yes.
Because Latino are brown.
I suppose they're an ethnic group, isn't that the idea?
But the word, they use the word colour, person
right.
of colour. Anyway, so yes, Andrew Yang is there, but he's not going to be on the stage at the debate.
No. So
who else is there?
So actually, and actually, this podcast has actually been recorded just before the Democratic debate that's happening,
which I didn't even realise was happening. Is it happening tonight?
It's happening tonight, Tuesday. So we're recording this just before that, but it's going to be interesting because tonight is the first night that Steyer has managed to get himself a spot in the limelight.
He's the colour of green.
He's the colour of green. in every sense of the word.
Him and Bloomberg. Yeah. I mean it in the most important sense of the word, the money.
But it's very funny when you think about the identity politics that we all have had to become obsessed with, or the Democrats are obsessed with. They seem to have a real knack of not succeeding at the things that they want to succeed at. So they really, really don't want the Democratic field to be all white. And guess what? Oh, white men, old white men, and except for obviously,
it's unbelievable.
Except for Elizabeth Warren. But then if you look at also the latest
brave,
news,
though.
if you look at she's brave, behave film now. But also if you look at what's just happened as well with the Oscars, the Oscar nominations,
yes.
where they've had this massive campaign to not be
It's not even
white.
a campaign. They've expelled old white guys from the
And
academy
replaced them with
people who were literally the fourth sweeper upper on the film that went straight to video. Like, they went through the list. I mean, they used to release the lists of people who've just been invited to join the academy, and I'm going, I've never heard of any of them. And then I look at the movies, and I have never heard of the movies. So they released them. They stuffed, that's another Democrat thing, stuffing the court.
Loading the court.
Let's stuff the Supreme Court with judges. Let's stuff the Academy with judges.
And you know what? It hasn't worked.
It has not worked.
It's unbelievable. It hasn't worked. And it's like, why should people judge a director or an actor or whatever, or the screenwriter by the colour of their skin? I mean, we just heard, by the way, from somebody working in Hollywood just yesterday, right? A friend of ours who told us that now they're basically being asked.
Quotas.
They're being asked for quotas when they come to screenwriters. And he actually came up with an idea of having them send him screenplays with numbers on them.
Yes, well,
and saying to them, I never ever want to know a name. I just want you to send me numbers and let me choose based on the numbers. I thought it was a great idea. I don't think they won't allow it though.
That won't fill the quota. But this is a serious guy who was in this house yesterday, sitting at our table eating brunch, talking about quotas in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And
how destructive that is.
And you're not allowed to fire any minorities now.
The only people you can fire, he said, the only people you can fire are.
He said he was on the phone
white men.
Human Resources, talking. He wanted to let somebody go, and not renewing someone's contract is seen as firing someone, even because you want to bring on more writers. And he said, I don't want this guy. I want this. I don't want this guy. I don't want this guy. And the person kept saying no. And then the person says, hold on, is he white? And the person's our friend says, yes, he is. Says, oh no, you can fire him.
Yeah, you can let him go. So yeah, quite sad. So the Oscars have been very unsuccessful in their attempts to make them not so white. It hasn't really worked out for them actually in the nominations.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. So talking of diversity,
you
wonder what I'm going to say next, don't you?
I think you're going to talk about Pocahontas, are you?
No.
All right.
I'm going to talk about the most successful Farsi tweet.
The most successful Farsi tweet of all time in the history of Twitter.
Yes.
Yes. And what is it, Phelim?
It was one from Donald Trump, President Donald Trump.
Will I read it?
Yes.
Do not kill your protesters. Thousands have been killed or imprisoned by you, and the world is watching. More importantly, the USA is watching. Turn your internet back on and let reporters roam free. Stop the killing of your great Iranian people. And actually, there's another one as well where he directly addressed the Iranian people and told them how much he loved them. And these are the most retweeted Farsi tweets of all time. I just think it's a classic.
And as we're talking, obviously it's a breaking news.
It's a breaking news story.
There are protests going on
all over the country
of Iran at the moment. There is a possibility, and of course they've had many false dawns in Iran, that the regime could be overthrown at this stage. The theocratic regime of Iran, a brutal repressive regime over them blowing up the plane and what came before that as well. I mean, I think the taking of the hostages by the Iranians in 1979 is an open sore that the Americans have never solved. It's bugged this country for all these years. It was a breach of every diplomatic norm.
Yeah.
It should not have happened. The world should have refused to have any diplomatic relations with Iran ever after that.
Yep.
You don't go into another person's embassy. It puts everyone at risk. And I think that, can you imagine if Donald Trump's action in assassinating Soleimani led to the overthrow of the Iranian regime? We make a lot of Iranians very happy and a lot of far left Democrats very unhappy.
Because it's unbelievable.
Even though freedom, they claim to love freedom.
Yeah.
If Donald Trump was to get you freedom, they
don't
want it.
That's not the kind of freedom they want. And it's interesting, actually, that in these protests that are happening all over Iran, that the chant is death to the dictator. Death to the dictator. That's really challenging, actually. Death to the dictator. Phelim, do you want to try and say that for me there?
Death to the dictator.
Oh yeah, it's the slowdown just before it. It could be there could be a pop.
Probably sounds more better in Farsi.
More better in Farsi. I just
that's
love
for you.
that.
That's
the
for you
most popular. That's for all you going out for all you guys who speak Farsi out there. I love that.
No, that's for Guy. More better.
More better. A friend of ours. Yes. All right, little in joke there, Phelim.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So it's probably death to the dictator is what they're saying. And did you see it? Very funny. You know where you're always assured, and you always see the picture of the protesters burning the American flag, and sometimes burning the Israeli flag. And I suppose they put the flags of America and Israel on the entrance to some university steps, so that the students could walk over them every day. And then there's pictures on the internet of the students refusing to walk over the flag.
Oh, that's great.
So things are changing there. Can you get rid of that heavily inbuilt, heavily embedded, theocratic, horrible regime, backed up with probably can't remember. Are the Russians in bed with them or not? Who knows? The Chinese. It's a dirty business. It's a mess, but actually very interesting. It's a mess that America doesn't have to give that much attention to because of fracking.
Because of fracking, it really has been a game changer, where they would normally possibly have to suck up a little bit because of the dependence on foreign oil, and that doesn't exist anymore.
So all you people who say that American interest in the Middle East is all about oil, America doesn't need Middle Eastern oil. In fact, if America destabilized Middle East a little bit more, it would push its own oil prices up. But actually, there is no destabilizing anymore to push oil prices up, because all this has happened in Iran and prices have just had a little blip. There's so much supply, especially from America, especially from Canada too, that the world is fine without Middle Eastern oil, and you don't matter anymore. You're not relevant.
I think they're feeling the pinch. So moving on, Phelim, tell us about the latest concern of Elizabeth Warren's. I mean, what's great about Elizabeth Warren is that she just picks on these issues that are so central to what matters to the American people.
Yeah, well, she's in Marshalltown, Iowa.
She's in Marshalltown, Iowa. Here's what she said.
Yes. Well, actually, no. Marshalltown, Iowa, which is quite a blue collar place, and as you say, she really does.
She can just feel what's on people's minds, what's foremost of a concern to them, and she articulates it.
What the Irish president Eamon de Valera said: "If I want to know what Ireland is thinking, I look into my heart." So Elizabeth Warren
did that.
She looked into her heart, and here's what she came up with: one of the biggest issues currently facing America and women in America in their march for equality. So let's play the tape there.
One of the things we have to think about as a nation, we have to stop putting trans women who are incarcerated into prisons with men where they are at risk. And it's our responsibility.
So trans women are
where
men.
They are at risk. It is our responsibility.
Yes. So trans women who are actually men who say they are now women, they can't go into prison with men. So where do they have to go? They have to go into prison with women. So you're putting violent criminal men into prison with women. So, and by the way, trans, it's all self-identifying. So if you're in prison and you wish to get into a prison full of women, and what man
among us, as they say, would not want to do that?
You just identify as trans, and then you go in, and then you can be violent and.
By the way, you can be violent, and you can be, you can have
all the girlfriends you need,
all the girlfriends you ever need. Yeah.
Yes, but it does not increase the safety of women in prison having a violent criminal man in the middle of them.
Yeah,
in my humble opinion.
In your humble opinion. In other great news, by the way, and probably a lot of people are aware of this. One of the very big changes with this administration, with this Trump administration, has been an overhaul in regulations in general, and a rollback in regulations. Thousands and thousands and thousands of... there's probably not enough focus on that, but a huge number of regulations have been rolled back. But particularly in the last very short time, this week, we've had this news that Trump is going to overhaul environmental regulations that have required large infrastructure projects to spend up to a year and longer after they did all the other regulations, by the way. After they got through every other hoop that the environmentalists have thrown at them. Another further year at least, assessing how that bridge, that road, would impact climate change. And basically Trump has said, no, we're going to stop that. And, here's a little bit of the story from the Wall Street Journal. Among the more than a dozen proposed changes to the environmental permit rules, the government for the first time would set limits for completion of environmental reviews, which can sometimes take a decade or longer. Yeah. Full environmental impact statements would need to be completed within 2 years, while less comprehensive environmental assessments would have to be concluded within 1 year. Yeah. And here's what the President Trump said. We want to build new roads, bridges, tunnels, highways, bigger, better, faster. I love that. Trump said from the White House, joined by business and union leaders, these endless delays waste money, keep projects from breaking ground, and deny jobs to our nation's incredible workers. And, just to get an idea of, because sometimes people think, oh, yeah, you're just exaggerating. Well, here, try this one out. Mr. Trump said it took more than 2 decades to finish the environmental reviews for a new runway at the Seattle airport, at the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. More than 2 decades. He added that it took even longer to start construction on a new 2.8-mile bridge connection to North Carolina's Outer Banks. Another place, obviously, very, very favoured by tourists, who could use that bridge, and also the people living there. So that bridge took even longer than 2 decades. It took, and here's what Trump said, and I just think this is so classic, and great for everyone to remember this. It took, how long did it take, Phelim, to build the Golden Gate Bridge? Isn't that a classic?
Yeah.
4 years.
4 years.
It took 4 years to build the Golden Gate Bridge, 5 years to build the Hoover Dam, and less than 1 year, can you believe that, to build the Empire State Building, Mr. Trump said, citing projects that predated by decades modern environmental concerns and standards. Yeah. And it's not like the president is saying we're going to do away with... It's very funny, the way that the New York Times reported this, if you read it and didn't know much about this stuff, you would read it and think, oh my God, you're going to be able to, tomorrow, you're going to be able to take out a couple of shovels and start building a bridge across wherever.
Yeah, our front lawn.
Exactly, absolutely, which would be very convenient actually. We could do that. And no, I mean, that's the impression the New York Times gets, that overnight Trump has got rid of all the environmental regulations. No, there is an extraordinary number of environmental regulations. He got rid of one extra hurdle, hurdle, after every last thing has been done, to now assess whether this particular road in the middle of nowhere is going to have a massive effect or any effect on climate change. So this is it's a good news story. I mean, one of the things I remember when Phelim and I, our first documentary, Mind Your Own Business, which is about mining, one of the things that I still hang on to and remember, because we did that documentary based out of Romania, was the fact... And it's just amazing for people to know this, that in the planet Earth, if you go right around the planet Earth, the worst place, the worst country in the world to get permitting for a mine is the United States of America. Yeah. So it takes about a decade, and you may not get it. So how many mining companies can afford to hang in that long, for example? So guess what happens? Obviously, America needs minerals. Obviously, they need mining, the products of mining. So guess what you do? You go to somewhere that doesn't have the regulations. So isn't that a great win for the environmentalists and a great win for countries that don't have any regulations?
Like
what
China.
A brilliant win for the Chinese.
Like Kazakhstan.
But anyway, that's
like Mongolia.
I mean, we're going to be talking a lot during 2020 about particularly these environmental issues.
Can I just say, there's one line that really struck me there was, we want to build new roads, bridges, tunnels, highways, bigger, faster, better. Mr. Trump said from the White House, joined by business and union leaders.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'd love to know who the union leaders were, because we've been at this environmental thing a long time. And I remember all along people were saying to me, especially climate change and pipelines, and they would say, don't worry, the pipelines, we got the unions on board, and that's going to be really powerful. And, I don't even know if the union leaders then issued a press release about a pipeline, or I can't remember. The union leaders do not care about these projects. I'd love to know who those union leaders were. I'd love to know, is that a press release or did any actual union leaders were there?
Well,
and what
way,
they're going to do, because let me say...
They should be there.
No, but being there. But they do not care about these projects. And it was clear to me, as in the last 10 years since we've been on these films and that these union leaders, why aren't they out protesting? Why aren't they having rallies? Why aren't they marching on City Hall? And of course, the union members who might get a job would do this, but the union leaders, these are not welders who became union leaders. These are political activists who, rather than running Planned Parenthood or Act Blue or the Democratic Party, they got a local job as a union leader. But tomorrow they could leave and run Bernie Sanders' Iowa campaign. These are political activists. They care about putting forward a progressive agenda. So they do not, and that's what happened. That's how Trump got elected, was because in the car factories, the union leaders came out for Hillary and the union members came out for Trump, because the union members knew that Hillary had sold them down and Bill had sold them down the Swanee with all sorts of things, but also with NAFTA and all that. And it's the same with this climate change. The union leaders, they may say, but they never do anything about it. They will never challenge the Democratic Party and say this is going to cost 1 million jobs. They will never do it, because the union leaders, if every welder in America was out of work tomorrow, the union leadership of the welders union would just move and become what else could they do?
Screenwriters of America. Exactly. So one of the things that we wanted to do this week is to let you know some really great news that we just got, which is that we have a donor who is willing to double any donations we get to the Ann Phelim Scoop podcast. And you can, and this cat is not taking this seriously at all, Phelim.
The top cat is not taking it seriously. I don't know if you can see it in the camera there, but it's great news. We like what we do, and we know that you like what we do. We look at all the comments.
We do.
Numbers are going up every week. But to keep us going, we need your help. This donor has been wonderful, and we'll match whatever you give. So whatever you give will be
immediately doubled.
Will be doubled. So please go to unreportedstorysociety.com.
Unreportedstorysociety.com. Unreportedstorysociety.com, and that's coming up on the screen right now.
And you can give whatever you want, and it will be matched. It will be doubled.
Yeah.
Thank you. It'll keep us going.
And for those of you who have already donated, thank you so much. But this week is very crucial.
Yes.
And look at this cat. He's not paying attention at all.
He's not. He's
very bad. Phelim, tell us about Megxit. What's happening with Meghan Markle?
Meghan Markle. Well, as the only British subject
at the table.
Top cat, stop it.
Oh, and I can see the hair coming off him as well. Yeah, stop. Continue on there.
So now he's over to torture Magda.
Torturing Magda.
Get off Magda's sound deck, Top cat. So Meghan Markle, they have decided to launch. They decided that in there need to be progressive young royals, and they use the word progressive.
Of course,
they want to step aside, but it's a funny kind of stepping aside where they keep the money, the title bestowed upon them. The title's bestowed upon them by
the Queen,
by Her Majesty the Queen.
Yeah.
But they don't want any of the responsibilities.
I'm very attracted to that idea of
progressiveness.
All the money, but no responsibility and no.
Charles. They renovated their cottage, and
how much did they spend?
Listen.
When you renovate,
marble countertops are expensive. Let's be clear.
When the bathroom or two. Or seven.
It's a cottage. It can't be that. Well, I suppose it's a big enough cottage. Anyway,
quite a big cottage now.
They renovated it, and they spent
Frogmore House,
and they were given £2.3 million sterling.
Way you spent $2.3 million on your last pounds. Which is like two. What's that? That's like
$3 million.
It's like $3 million. You know the way you spent $3 million the last time you renovated your home. And who paid for that then?
The British taxpayer.
Taxpayer.
Or was it Charles? But the money came from the royal family. And now they want to step back. Well, are they going to give the money back? No, they're not. Are they going to pay rent? No, they're not. So they want all the perks and none of the responsibilities because they're just young, woke.
And where are they going to go, Phelim? Are they going to be staying in the UK then?
Yeah, their initial plans, there was talk they were going to go to Canada. They talked about North America, which is a very weird way of putting it. They talked about Canada. But now it looks like they're interested in Los Angeles. This town ain't big enough for the both of us, I think. Megan, darling, sweetheart. But Megan has now let it be known that she will not move back to the United States whilst Donald Trump is still president.
Trump derangement syndrome.
So I think that is a prime reason. Now, I'm not. When you're donating to the Unreported Story Society,
Oh yeah, that's a very important
you will
point.
find out
we're a 501c3.
You'll find out we're a 501c3. So your donation is tax deductible. So we're not allowed to advocate for the election of an individual. So I'm not advocating for the election.
But for those of you out there who are advocating for different candidates, it could be something that could be in the mix of, do you really want Meghan Markle to move back to Los Angeles?
Yes, back to America. And if you do, if you want to delay that, then you could possibly promote the election of one Donald J. Trump to prevent that.
One other thing about this Megxit and Meghan and Harry, you know, I mean, as we both know, a bit like Harry's father, Charles, Prince Charles, Harry cares deeply about the climate catastrophe. But it's interesting, I have a question, because now they're planning to live between the UK, Vancouver and Los Angeles. They're going to be moving back and forth. Clearly with a bit of a large carbon footprint. And is that not something that concerns them?
You're pathetic, Anne.
Oh, am I?
You're always trying to bring things down. You know, I mean, why won't you understand that what they do is very important?
That they're,
right?
Yes.
You know,
that our betters are more important. And so the betters, their carbon footprint is different.
Their carbon footprint is important. When we go to Vegas or to visit our family, it's not as important.
No.
As people saving the planet.
Correct.
I mean,
yes.
It stands to reason. It stands to sense.
No, you're right.
Their carbon footprint, and remember, and actually you can check this out. We did a hypocrites series, and we did. Prince Charles.
And you should totally. Yeah, we should. Perhaps we should actually. We could play. Actually, do you know what?
A clip of.
Let's play a clip from Prince Charles. Hypocrite. So our series, if you look on YouTube, you'll find the whole series.
Yes.
We did a whole load of people. James Cameron, hypocrite. But let's have a look at...
what did Prince Charles say?
Prince Charles,
20 minutes to save the planet or something? We all need to live with less?
We all need to... Well, let's watch that.
We are making it cool to use less stuff.
We love Prince Charles.
Well,
and you know what? He cares so much, and that's why he's
like
cut,
father, like
that's
son.
why he's cut back. So like father, like son. But yeah, it's quite the story. And I think they made the announcement without talking to the Queen first and caught her very much off the back.
Yes, that's a great way to treat your grandmother, isn't it?
Not a very nice way to treat your grandmother who's in her 90s and never did you any harm. You know what I mean? It's not like they have.
But now they're coming. If all else fails, play the risk card. So Meghan Markle.
Oh, this is unbelievable.
She's now claiming that the British are irredeemably racist and that she's been forced out, or that's certainly the message that they're trying to spread. Journalists are trying to spread it. And, I can see Meghan in 6 months' time giving that interview.
Oh, yeah.
That the British were racist and that the royal family was racist. I hope that whatever deal they do, the royal family does with them, that there's a clause in it. If you ever use the word racist to describe us or the British people, everything is taken off you and you're thrown in the Tower of London.
That's right. This racism, and it's very interesting that like the New York Times are picking up on that and NPR are picking up on this racist idea with Meghan Markle. And it's, really...
I think the British people didn't even realise.
Nobody knew. I didn't know. Somebody had to tell me that she was mixed race. I certainly didn't know that. You'd need to have it pointed out to you,
yes.
Which kind of ruins the point, I think, if the racism has to be, if you have to work out, anyway, quite a lot of nonsense. We're moving on to just a beloved Trump derangement moment that's just happened. And it's dressed up in the most extraordinary circumstance. So Elizabeth Wurtzel, who's a name that maybe a lot of people don't recognise, but you certainly will recognise the fact that she was the woman who wrote Prozac Nation, which is huge. Millions and millions of copies sold. And she also wrote a book called Bitch in praise of difficult women and had this massive career. She's died very tragically, very, very recently of cancer and all of that. And she wrote a lot for The Atlantic, and then The Atlantic wrote this, nice dedication and the woman, in fact, the editor from The Atlantic wrote about her relationship with Elizabeth Wurtzel, and it's actually really amazing. And included in this, sort of dedication
essay,
or this essay is an essay written by Elizabeth Wurtzel about herself
As
dying.
she was dying.
As she was dying.
And about her dying.
And a number of things happened to her as well. Like her marriage failed.
Yes.
Her marriage failed. She got this awful cancer and she's dying, and it's just really terrible.
And then she finds out at the age of 50 that her mother tells her that at the age of 50, the man she thought was her... This is a woman who has mental problems.
Yeah.
She then is told at the age of 50 that the man you thought was your father is not your father, and you shouldn't worry about it. So why is it important?
Yeah.
That's what her mother said to her.
But
so as she was dying of cancer.
As she was dying of cancer.
So as you say, a lot going on there.
So as she's dying of cancer, she writes an essay called I Believe in Love. And it's really, really beautiful, by the way. So much of it's really beautiful. I'm going to read a few pieces from it. And I'm going to read just a small piece of this. Everything is falling. My husband moved out at the end of December. As the calendar flipped from last year to this, while I was in Miami Beach, strolling the walkways in the shocking morning sun and under the nighttime Van Gogh sky, away from it all. I knew he was moving out, but still I was surprised. I did not see that the game was over. I did not know the clock was running. I never lose, but I do run out of time. It turns out this was basketball and not baseball. While I looked away, my marriage fell apart. I fell off my keel. I lost my kilter. I was a kite without a string. Maybe it's better. And it goes on like that. It's beautiful. And on and on and on. And it's beautiful. And, I do not want to feel this way. I'm going through the 5 stages of grief all at once. I got married because I was done with crazy. But here it is, back again, the revenant. I cannot shake. I feel like it's 1993 when my heart had a black eye all the time. 26 is a boxing match of the soul. I did not expect bruises at 52. Like, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And then... And by the way, it's like 10 pages long. So don't worry, I'm not reading all of it. But you have to listen to this. This tells you so much about the left that I think sometimes people in the conservative side don't realise. I have blamed myself, I have blamed my husband, I have blamed cancer, I have blamed marijuana, I have blamed sexism, I have blamed Charlottesville, I have blamed my in-laws, I have blamed several men named David. It's funny. I have blamed my mother, who lied to me my whole life about who my father is. Who would I be if I did not blame Donald Trump? I am angry all the time since the election of 2016, like it happened to me, like I was gang raped by Michigan. I don't want to be angry, but so there I am. Sex and race look different since Trump was elected. We know all the things that we never knew. We were living in a world of trust. We believed we were on a righteous path, that things were incrementally improving, so we did not look so hard into the sunlight. All anything ever is another way of saying, I thought my husband was on my side. I thought I knew him. I did. I don't. He changed.
Oh.
I do not know how to help him. I do not know how to reach him. Anything is possible. I believe in so much. I'm just that way. I believe in love. What matters more in this crazy world? And on and on and on. And I get the impression that perhaps maybe her husband is a Trump supporter. I'm serious, but I don't know. But can you imagine this woman? I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's awful. It's incredibly sad. She was dying. And by the way, at the very end, when you finish the essay, you realise that the woman from The Atlantic comes back in, her voice comes back in and says she died on Tuesday or whatever. And the woman is dead and buried. But that at her, in her dying moments, she took time out to rail against Trump and to describe the election as being gang raped by Michigan.
It's very sad, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And this stuff is everywhere. And these are people like this woman are the people who are writing every screenplay that is in every movie.
I read an article. For some reason I was looking for something in the Irish Times the other day, and I came across an article from 2016. It was the day after, or 3 days after Trump was elected, and it was Irish writers absorbed the result, right?
Yeah.
And
absorbed the result. That's very good.
I started reading it, and suddenly I realised, it's 100 Irish writers. Apparently, there's 100 Irish writers.
A lot of diversity, though, right?
A lot of diversity. So there's about 100 of them, right? And they're all right, and they tell you what book you should read to help you get through it. It's like the lack of diversity, but the lack of curiosity and people about Trump is for writers.
What do you mean by that when you say a lack of curiosity about writing? What specifically do you mean by that?
There's no looking beyond the fact that he's a racist, homophobe, xenophobe.
Yeah, but if it's true, that's worth focusing on, right?
Yes, but there's no thinking. There's no looking at why. You're a writer. Why is he that like that? You're a writer. Why did people vote for him then? You're a writer. Why did some people who voted for Obama vote for Trump? You're a writer. Why did Bernie supporters not support Clinton, but they supported Trump? You're a writer. Why did Michigan flip? You know, it's like, you know...
Why did Wisconsin
by the way,
vote
if it was Mitt Romney, it would be a lot less interesting because Mitt Romney was sort of, you know, Clinton light, right? So if it was a switch between Clinton and Mitt Romney, that's fair enough. But this is a pretty spectacular switch. And as a writer, you know, there's a reason people write books set during the Russian Revolution. It's because it's a dramatic change when everything is swept aside and as somebody says at the end of Casablanca, you know, what does it matter? But a hill of beans, you know, two people in this world gone crazy, you know, and you know, great literature comes out of that, you know, and it's like they don't care about the world gone crazy. They just care that they virtue signal that they...
Yeah, I'm very intelligent. I'm obviously very intelligent. I'm more intelligent than the average, and there's no way that this man is obnoxious. He's got bad skin, he's got bad hair, and he doesn't speak beautifully, you know. He doesn't speak like Martin Sheen when Martin Sheen's excited.
Yes.
You know, thanks God. And I mean, that's a point, isn't it? That a lot of people in Wisconsin, in Michigan were going, thank God this guy doesn't sound like that. He sounds a lot like a regular guy that we would know or that you could talk to. But yeah, I read that and I thought, because I was reading it as the very sad story about this woman, and she had been this famous woman and a feminist and all this, and that she lost the love of her life and she's dying at the same time. And you'd think, I really was like a slap in the face. I thought, there's no way Trump can get into this. And yet, you know, he's living rent-free in people's heads at a level that's just it's something beautiful and crazy about it. It's fantastic. We're running out of time, so I'm going to very quickly give the recipe of the week. And the recipe of the week is like not really a recipe, but it kind of is a recipe in praise of making your own stock. You know, every time you read a soup recipe, it says, you know, you should really make your own stock. And I always look at it and think, no, I'm just going to buy store-bought stock because who has the time? But my husband, you know, who spoke earlier about being neglected by his wife, has had a very bad flu and felt very bad. And I had a chicken last weekend and I thought, you know what, my husband could really do with proper chicken soup. It's not actually what he got in the end because I made a slight change in the recipe as I went. But basically I started by making chicken stock, which is obviously the carcass of the chicken. If you've had a chicken, do not throw that carcass out. Throw it into a really large pot. Throw into that pot carrots, onions, 2 bay leaves, 3 or 4 stalks of celery. Let me see what else. I wrote the list so I wouldn't forget. You know, whatever you like, by the way. Garlic. I put in some ginger, peppercorns, and boil it for like 3 hours.
Can I just say, your recipe there reminds me, one of the things I remember from we lived in Romania, they had a saying, the old hen and the young carrot make the best soup. I don't think they were talking about soup.
Moving right along. So boil that for 3 hours and then just super simple. I mean, a lot of people talk about taking away the fat. You can spoon off the fat as you go. Relax yourself. I just strain the whole thing and pull out the vegetables, by the way, because you can then give them a zzz, zzz, zzz with the, that machine. And what I actually did was I looked in the fridge and I had a cauliflower that was looking neglected and had seen its better days. And I thought, I'm not throwing that out. I'm a great believer in not throwing things out. And I chopped that up and made a cauliflower soup and then I just thought, and with soup, by the way, you can be really improvisational. So it's not like the specific quantities. I threw in some brown ale beer. Gorgeous. I had a lot of bits and pieces of cheese I had left over from a frittata. I threw all of those cheese pieces in as well. And was it a nice soup, Phelim?
It was a delicious soup.
It really was a delicious soup.
It was chicken soup for the soul.
It was chicken soup for the soul with cauliflower. So I just think there's something beautiful about the smell of stock boiling in a kitchen that reminds me of home, and my mother was a great one for making stock. And one thing that you can do with stock that I think most of you probably know, anyone who's a cook on this show would know this, is you can keep, if you have extra, just put it into the ice, into the ice tray, and then you'll have and freeze it. And then anytime you need stock, you can take one of those ice cubes out and just drop it into a sauce if you want that extra bit of flavour. Tell us about the entertainment news, Phil, and we've got about 3 minutes to hear about Phyllis Schlafly. Are they going to celebrate Phyllis Schlafly now on the television in America?
Yeah, well, they already did a whole episode on her on The Marvellous Miss Maisel, which is on Amazon Prime or something, and it was just ridiculous. It was a shoehorning of wokeness, inaccurate wokeness into a much-loved series,
into a much-loved series. And about a much loved woman who's much loved by a certain generation.
But it's not even that. It was completely inaccurate and wrong.
Yes.
And vile, accusing her, who's dead now, of anti-Semitism.
Yeah. And of being a monster.
And
xenophobic.
Yes.
Yep.
So, what are they going to do? They're going to do a TV series. FX are doing a complete TV series.
And they're taking it really
Phyllis
seriously.
Schlafly.
They're going to have Kate Blanchett in the lead role.
Kate Blanchett and Rose Byrne's going to be there as well. So let's see the trailer.
I am not against women. I am not against women working outside the home. But what I am against is the women's liberation movement.
Who the hell is Phyllis Schlafly?
We need to get the word out quickly. We want the right to be a mother, the right to be a wife. The Libbers want to create a sex-neutral feminist totalitarian nightmare.
Do you know what you're saying has no basis in fact?
Our movement is about fighting the oppression of all women.
We do not want housewives thinking that we are against them.
We are against them. Revolutions are messy. How long are we supposed to wait? How much time do we give people to adapt to change? Or am I the only one who's so tired of waiting?
Why would God put this fire in me if he didn't want me to act on it?
High production values, I would say, not high moral or accuracy values among the team. And by the way, it's a very interesting story. It's a woman. I mean, the elites of this country were all for the ERA. It was a slam dunk, and one woman who railed against the elites, especially the Republican elites. She was a Republican who hated the Republican elites. It was just why she was one of the first to support Trump. I've said this because she's been at it for 30 years. They weren't representative, and she took them on and built up a coalition of women across all religions, by the way. Mm-hmm. And defeated this slam dunk amendment of the Constitution. So I
think the woke generation, however, want to rewrite that piece of history, yes. And they want to reintroduce the ERA and bring it, get that amendment back into the Constitution. Yes. That's what they want to try and do.
That's what they want to
do.
So
now they take this kind of thing very seriously. So what they've got to do is they've got themselves in a TV show.
They've got to destroy Phyllis Schlafly.
Exactly.
That's what you got to do.
And then in other news about destroying things of beauty and things that we all loved. So back in the day, back in the 90s, and I remember this so well. We had this American TV show. It was shown in Ireland. I asked Magda earlier. It was shown over in Poland as well. Party of Five. It was really delightful. It was a story of a family where the mom and dad had been killed in a car accident by a drunk driver, and then the 5 kids, the older kids, were grown ups, if you know what I mean. They were like 19 or whatever, and they kept the family together. And the grown up, 19, 20-year-old, early adult became the parents of these children. They've got a reboot film. Yes. Tell us what the reboot looks like.
Well, it's a similar kind of story. 5 children left alone
to
struggle in a crazy world.
Did their parents get killed?
In a car accident by a drunk driver? No, actually, interesting enough, no, in this reboot, the parents are not dead. The parents have been deported. But let's see what happened to parents. Let's have a listen and
to the new version
to the trailer. So let's hear the trailer, and you'll hear immediately what happens to parents.
I need to see your papers.
I don't have any papers.
All right, come.
No, don't take them! No!
My hands are tied. The former ruling stands.
No!
Time's up. Let's go.
No, I'm not ready to go.
You gotta go.
I don't want to.
I love you, mijo. I love you. Tienes que ser fuerte, mijo. Fuerte.
Yeah, so if you know, I think it's very clear there, and the program has been out, and it's on. Where is it on? Party 5 on Freeform. The parents have been deported.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. By Trump, by evil Trump, by the evil Trump
and there's all
administration.
These cages and all that.
Yeah, and you heard at the very beginning.
Even the judge doesn't want to deport him, but Trump
and the children, mommy,
daddy.
Yep.
And it's like, so that is they do not rest. These people, they do not rest.
They do not rest. They take the culture very seriously. Yes. So we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Just reminding everyone, please, that you can donate to keep us on the road, and we would really appreciate it. And because we've had this extraordinary donor who's turned up, like, just amazing, who has said they will double anything that comes in this week, we would ask you to go to unreportedstorysociety.com, unreportedstorysociety.com, and give whatever you can.
Please do.
Thank you so much. Yes, and we see you in a week.
We have some big projects coming up. So we just came off a conference call there just before we came on. Big project.
Big news.
Looks like it's going to happen. You'll love it. Everyone will love it. It's but these things cost money. We need to keep going. So please go to the Unreported Story Society and
give what you can.
Give what
Unreportedstorysociety.com.
Thank you
so much.